So yeah, I've got a new hat. Let me know what you guys think. I really like it. YouTube, Captain Machine here, back for part 4 of our Delta Green marathon, as it were. And we're talking about the latest book, which is Targets of Opportunity. Now, this is the hardest book for me to review in terms of ethics, not actual mechanical know-how, simply due to the fact that I've always said I was never going to review a book that was out of print. I'm pretty sure once I get my schedule back up and running so I can do more reviews, I'm going to break that rule wide open. However, this is a book that's not even been in print yet, so what I'm talking about today is reviewing a book that hasn't even seen print. Is that going to stop me? Hell no. Delta Green Targets of Opportunity has had a long and interesting history. Basically, we've been waiting for this for about 2 years since it was first announced and the ransoming started for it. However, one of the chapters, the Cult of Transcendence, which I'll talk about in a moment, has been in development for about 10 years. If you go back to the original Delta Green source book, should you have it, you'll find an advert in there telling you that this book is coming out. So we have been waiting for quite some time. Has it been worth the wait? I would say yes, it has, most definitely. But I'm going to go into the finer details. By the way, it is a PDF copy I'm using here. I haven't got the actual physical book because no one has at the moment. However, despite the fact I hate reading PDFs, I have read the first chapter, I have browsed over the rest of them, and although I will be savouring the enjoyment of reading the thing in full in paper print, I have got an overall idea and enough to actually give my opinion on it. So much like what I did with 4th edition, this is more a preview than a review, so just to be warned. Basically, like Countdown, it's a series of groups that you can use in your game, be it organisations that work for the mythos or work with the mythos to basically advance their own ends, or are opposed to them, and could potentially be allies for any Delta Green campaign characters. Also, depending on how you write your intrigue and your conspiracies, it could be the opposite. So we've got 1, 2, 3, 5 chapters in total, along with a very large appendix, which I will go into later, because I do love as I said, I do love the appendices that comes with Delta Green stuff. It's so full of information, despite how few pages are dedicated to it. First, you've got Black Cod Island, which is a modern-day Innsmouth. Basically, the idea being that Innsmouth is a little village on the east coast that was taken over by Deep Ones, and as such, forced the US government in the 1920s to deal with it, with a combined army and naval assault. And the US government, which opened up Delta Green after this point, decided that they had got rid of this menace, and lo and behold, to the west coast in Alaska, that wasn't the case. In fact, it was much, much, much worse. Black Cod Island is not only Innsmouth Plus, but Innsmouth with a much longer and older backstory. However, there are an awful lot of hooks to play with and an awful lot of interesting twists to the story. Plenty to review there. Second is Disciples of the Worm, which is a cult or a group dedicated to, well, immortality, basically. They have discovered these worms, which when inserted into your body latch onto you like a symbiote and will basically regenerate you. However, they do cause exceptional agony during that period of time, and if you don't watch what you're doing, they do breed within inside your own body, much like regular worms do. No. And because they're quite large and quite dangerous, that's a very bad thing. The write-up for this is amazing. This is possibly my favourite chapter in the entire thing so far. I might change my opinion once I've read the full thing in full, but it creeps me out. It really does. The whole theme of it is the lengths people will go to extend their twisted and horrible lives, and that is a great theme for Delta Green. Then you've got Demont Clan. This is this was, or is potentially, the most controversial chapter out of all of them, because it deals with New Orleans after Katrina. Basically, the whole thing is it is about a group of ghouls that live in New Orleans, and basically, the way it points it, the way it suggests that you play it, is that after Katrina happened, Delta Green got wind of things going on and they decided to send agents in to deal with it, and it goes from there. The next one you've got is M-Epic, which is a terrible name if you ask me, a really, really bad name, but that's what they picked. And it's all about basically the Canadian answer to the mythos. So much like Pisces is Delta Green in the UK and Gru 8 is Delta Green in Russia, M-Epic is Delta Green in Canada. And basically they've got a long and varied history, and due to the fact that they share a common history with the UK, they also have a similar shared history with Pisces, so there's a bit of a crossover there, which is pretty good. Once again, you have the potential of using them as allies or villains or both, depending on how well you write your conspiracies. And then finally, you've got the Cult of Transcendence. This is the one that's been in the back of the Delta Green book for, well, since it ever came out. And basically, it's a group of Nyarlathotep worshipping, basically, cultists, particularly powerful and widespread cultists. How this differs to the Fate, which is a similar concept, is that the Fate is a much more centralised, localised activity. It deals primarily with the east coast of America and more specifically with New York as a city, whereas the Cult of Transcendence is a worldwide organisation and is shaping up to be a pretty good chapter. I haven't read it in full detail. There's a lot of interesting little bits in there. There's a lot of sanity blasting stuff in there. Very interesting stuff to read. Then you've got the appendices. The appendices are, once again, like I said before, the best parts if you ask me. We've got the combat options, which are more options for combat. You don't need them with basic role playing. In fact, one would argue that you've never needed them, but they're there if you want to use them. I'm not a big fan of the hit location system that people keep trying to put onto Call of Cthulhu, because I think it makes what is already a lethal game much more lethal, which is something you don't need. You've got stress disorders, which is an alternative to short-term insanity, which is a fantastic way of dealing with our understanding and how we, as modern people, deal with mental breakdown. Background options, which are basically akin to, well, I wouldn't say how White Wolf does it, but the idea is there that you can basically add layers onto your character, so you've got things that you can either tie onto, use as plot hooks, or motivations for your character to carry on. There's a fantastic chapter on forensic DNA. So those of you who watch CSI will probably enjoy that quite a lot. I'm not a big CSI fan, although I might get back into it. But if you're going to play Delta Green, it's probably a good idea to actually look into those episodes, because it'll tell you what can and can't be done, and it allows you to write stuff around that. Then you've got a chapter which I think, or appendices, sorry, I think has been missing for quite some time, which is how to run Delta Green. Now, it's not a be-all and end-all, it's not a Bible, it's just a series of hints and guidelines, but it is something that I feel would have benefited being in an earlier book. But I'm thankful that we now have it. And then you've got your cheat sheets and your indexes and stuff like that. Overall, what do I think of this book? I think, firstly, this book proves that Delta Green has got legs, and it will keep going if we let it go, and I can't see any reason why not. It's got to the point now with Delta Green that, as I've said before, if you have a modern day scenario, people start asking, how can I use this in my Delta Green campaign? And that, although you could say that straitjackets the genre, as it were, I feel that proves that there are people out there, a lot of people, who want to explore the conspiracy aspect with a bit of mythos mixed in. This, in my opinion, as a book, transcends old Call of Cthulhu, the 1920s classic era Chaosium book, with Pagan Publishing's universe they created for Delta Green, which are two similar but subtly different systems, or worlds, shall we say. And it does it really well. So you've got references, and you've got basically a modern day interpretation of Innsmouth. You've got the Cult of Transcendence, which is your modern day interpretation of a vast global Nyarlathotep cult, much in the way that masks worked. There is the Demont clan, so we're getting stuff with ghouls again, which we haven't seen for quite some time. Disciples of the Worm, which is another fantastic little cult, which is spanning from, at the very least, from Africa to America and back again. So yeah, you've got plenty in there, which in my opinion helps bridge the gap between Call of Cthulhu and Delta Green. And that is what I think this book does. Was that the goal? Probably not. But that's what I think it does. There is one thing, however, one piece of criticism I have to level at this book. And I'm going to be picky about this, I really am sorry, but there are no adventures in this book at all, which is odd because every single book so far has had them. Does the book suffer from it? I would say no. There are more than enough plot hooks in there for Creative Gems to write something with, and we are going to get some adventures in the future. Whether they relate directly to these chapters, we don't know yet, but they are out there. And we are going to be getting an adventure book soon from Chaosium. Not Chaosium, Pagan Publishing. Pagan Publishing. I do apologise if I'm munching my words today. That's the only disadvantage I can see to this book. It's massive, absolutely massive, but it does suffer from the fact that it has lost those adventures which uses the material given. But like I said before, there's plenty of hooks to go with.